This show is brought to you by the Garden Gurus and Evergreen Garden Care. Evergreen Garden Care and their market-leading brands are some of the most trusted consumer brands within the garden care market. They produce high-quality garden care products designed to help people create their own green oasis. Whether it's a garden, a balcony, or potted indoor plants, they want to inspire anyone, anywhere to be able to easily create and maintain their own garden. To find out more about Evergreen Garden Care, head to www.lovethegarden.com. Garden Express are Australia's leading mail-order gardening service, offering a wide range of quality garden products. Each week on the Garden Gurus Live, the team at Garden Express will share a weekly offer. So make sure after today's show you jump online and visit their website.
Hello, good morning. Second time lucky. It's Trevor Cochrane here from the Garden Gurus. We've got the Garden Gurus Live for you today. Some fantastic guests joining us. We're live streaming to you right across Australia, in fact, across the world, from beautiful Western Australia. And the weather here is magnificent today. Hearts go out to everybody in northern New South Wales, central New South Wales, where you've been enduring some pretty serious flooding, but it seems like now the majority of the water is starting to move away and things are starting to dry out. No doubt we were getting so many questions during the week with regards to how much water was around, what you do with plants that have been saturated and sodden, and we'll talk about those no doubt through the stream. We've got the Garden Gurus Facebook Live. We've got Love the Garden Facebook. We also have Garden Express Facebook, and our YouTube channel is also streaming live. And I think we might even be coming through the Still Facebook Live. No, not today. Okay, well, there we go. We've got some guests joining us today. I'm really looking forward to it. The truly remarkable Karen Goldie, who's always got brilliant ideas, is joining us a bit later on from Love the Garden, and she'll be doing something that's become very trendy in recent times. It's a Japanese trend. It's called Kokedama. She'll show you how to do it. David Van Berkel, my good mate from Garden Express, is joining us. They've got the very exciting Flower Fest on at the moment, and we'll talk about that. And our very own Nigel Ruck joins us. Now, he is south of Melbourne, south of Sydney, a couple of hours south of Sydney. He's got some very, very good garden tips, hints and suggestions. So we'll chat to Nigel. And of course, we've got our weekly giveaways. I don't have them sitting in front of me, unfortunately, to show you, but we've got our packets of Fothergill seeds, and also I think it's the book yes, 2 dogs and a garden. So we have that. Now, what we'll do, of course, is we'll answer all of your gardening questions. That's why we're here. And I really want you to send your questions through. But please do us a favour. When you send them through, make sure you tell us where you're from. What town, what state really does help. And that's a really good thing with regards to being able to answer those questions. The other thing is that if you like what we're doing today, please like us on the page, and that'll let all your friends know that we're doing this, and hopefully they'll join us too. Now, my first up question this morning comes from Amanda, and Amanda, I'm not sure where you are, unfortunately, but you've asked about fertilisers that are dog friendly. So confusing, and you just don't know what to purchase. Well, look, the vast majority of fertilisers are actually pretty dog friendly. Believe it or not, it's the chicken manure based ones. So those ones that are pelletized chicken manure that dogs will often try and get into, and for some strange reason want to eat, which leaves them with some pretty awful breath, I've got to tell you. But the general comment is that most fertilisers, particularly controlled release, will be dog friendly. So don't go worrying too much. And look, for those that are not, the truth of the matter is that they're generally very bitter, and a dog wouldn't want to consume them. So it's only going to be the ones that have got an animal-based manure to them that might cause a problem. Elmer is in Melbourne. Hello, everybody in Melbourne. You just wanted to ask why your indoor plants are dying, and you followed what was written on the tag, but it doesn't seem to be working. Now, you've got some palms, peace lily, and a bird's nest fern by the sounds of it, and they are not happy. Now, the trick with indoor plants, I always say this, is to basically give them a little regularly. So to give them a half a glass or a glass of water, depending on the size of the pot, once or twice a week is generally all they're going to need. As far as light, most indoor plants are designed to grow in low light conditions, but if it's really, really dark, then you need to try and get them a little closer to a window, and that's generally all they'll need, because they originate 9 times out of 10, and things like bird's nest ferns are a really good example, under the canopy of a tree. So Elma, my suggestion is, when you can, on a cloudy day, move them outside, give them a little bit of fresh air, wipe down the leaves, get any dust off them, only water them twice a week, half a glass if they're in a 200 ml pot. That's a pot about that big. If it's slightly bigger, maybe a full glass, but not much more than that. Hopefully that helps you with your indoor plants. Penelope is in Googong in New South Wales. It's been a tricky year with the abundance of rain, and as a consequence, diseases around the garden. And she's had a terrible time with the standard iceberg roses, the black spot, which has taken over. You've pruned, you've used Triforte, you've picked up fallen leaves. What else can you do? Well, there's certainly fungicides you can spray, and this is one of those remarkable years. I think probably 1 in 30 where you really probably should consider spraying fungicides if you want to get right on top of these diseases. If you want to try a natural solution, whole milk. In fact, if you can actually get milk from a dairy that hasn't been through any processing, even better again. And the idea is you get it into a small misting sprayer and you shake it right up so it's really, really thoroughly mixed and liquid, because what happens with whole milk is you tend to get a layer of fat on the surface, and it's that fatty cream that you don't want. You want that mixed all the way through. Then you spray it over the foliage of your roses. Now, you're going to have some white residue on the roses, but it's actually the bacteria that's in that milk that will spread through, and it'll eat the sugars of the milk and then immediately move on to the fungus, and that'll help you bring it down. The key with black spot in particular is actually air movement through the plant. So if you can get air moving through the foliage a lot better, lower levels of humidity, and I think probably the last thing to keep in mind is don't go watering, particularly at night. If you can do all those things, you should see them make quite a dramatic turnaround. And look, we've got one more really good flush, maybe 2 flushes before the end of the flowering season, before we get into June. So I hope that helps. It's a pretty comprehensive answer, Penelope. I hope that helps. Sue is in Dawesville in WA. Hi, Sue. You've got a Hass avocado in a large pot. It's lost all its leaves. The fruits ended up dropping off. Now, you live in a windy area. Could this be the cause of it? No. I would suggest that it's dropped its fruit because it's gone through some kind of stress. Now, it's either going to be dry stress or too much water, more likely in Dawesville to be dry stress. So I'd be checking the sprinklers to make sure that it's getting watered. Now, this is an interesting one. The next one is also in Perth. Christine, hello, Christine. Any suggestions for getting rid of slaters? They're everywhere. Now, slaters generally only eat dead organic matter. So they're what we call saprophytes. They'll only eat that kind of rotting material, and they break it down. So they're a handy member of the garden's insect community. But in large volumes of them, when there's very large populations, they'll start to take over. And what they do is they'll eat the soft new growth, particularly seedlings and things like that. So the trick is to try and get rid of them without necessarily spraying too many chemicals around. Now, interesting thing about slaters is they're a crustacean, so they're a member of the prawn and crayfish family, and not really a traditional insect as we would like to, or as we often sort of classify them. So the way to get rid of them is to give them more of what they want. And what I would suggest you do is you buy yourself a kilo of oranges, you cut them in half, you juice them, pop the juice in the fridge, take the halves out about 5 o'clock at night, and in the areas where there's big populations of them, lay the halves face down on the ground, okay? Probably leave them for 2 hours, maybe 2.5, 3 hours, then come back out with a plastic bag and pick each of the halves up. They will be full of slaters. Pop them into the bag, tie it off, take it and give it to your chickens or dispose of it somewhere where slaters are okay, and you will get rid of the problem. You'll break the population right down, and they'll do a lot less damage. It'll mean there's more food. The other thing you can do is actually provide them with more of that rotting material that they do prefer to eat. So more compost will actually provide them a food source, and they'll in turn convert that into fertilizer for you. So there's a couple of different options for you. Karen Goldie is joining us. Good morning to you, Karen. How's the weather in South Australia? Oh, Karen, we can't hear you. We're going to ask you to reconnect. There we go. In the meantime, I'm going to roll on with a few more questions, and we'll just let Karen do that. Technology is challenging us today. Now, Kate's in Queensland. She's got a desert rose. These are called adeniums. They're an absolutely beautiful succulent plant, but this one's lost its leaves and it's getting very leggy. Should you prune it, or is it dying? Well, you can prune them. It tends to make the base of them a lot more sort of swollen and boab-like in their nature. So you can do that for sure. The fact that it's losing its leaves is not very good, but it probably suggests that it's going through some stress. So repotting is also a good idea. Now, if you want to keep it in the same size pot, just knock some of the soil off the root system and then repot it into some good potting mix. And you don't need to use a cacti or succulent potting mix. Use a good potting mix and it'll grow back and produce new foliage. So that should work. Now, Sajad, where are you from? You've come in from YouTube. Can roses be transplanted? And the answer is absolutely. Wait until winter, though. Don't do anything until winter. Give them a prune back, and then you'll be able to transplant them. Now, we've caught up with Karen again. I think you're back with us. I can see. I can see you. Yes. Hello. How are you? No, we we can hear you, but we can't see you. So we're going to have one more try at this reconnection thing. Okay. In the meantime, I'll keep flying at our questions coming through. This one comes through from YouTube here. Exude, you're planning to do a verge garden with natives, ripping up the lawn. It's very rocky and sandy due to construction. What can I do to prep condition the soil? Well, you're in Perth, so we know that much. And it depends on the native plants you're going to choose. So I always say this about natives, so we use that as a general term. But a native could be anything from a man fern that you get growing, up in the Dandenongs or down in Tasmania, through to a tropical palm like the foxtail palm that comes out of northern Queensland, or it could be a really tough Midwest West Australian native, one of those amazingly hardy plants. And the trick is to try and get plants that are endemic to your local area. If you can do that, you're absolutely laughing. So that means that you don't need to do a huge amount of work on your soil. There are a few different things you can do. One is adding a bit of nutrition in there. One is adding a little bit of organic material. But as I said, it depends on where your natives have come from. So if you're going to use endemic species, don't need to do an awful lot. I would wait until probably April, May. It's quite wet in Perth. So the soil should be in reasonably good condition. You could possibly put them in the next month or so, but certainly you can't go wrong if you do it in May, and then let them establish as smaller plants during the winter. Then come springtime and summer, they should be able to survive on their own. And that's the whole idea of taking lawn out of verges and putting natives in, is to obviously reduce the amount of maintenance and keep them looking nice and providing a habitat for local species. I would say to you a little bit of advice on verge gardens. So one of the biggest killers of birds in a suburban environment is having lots of food sources for them right next to the edge of the road. They'll fly in, and the risk of them getting hit by cars is pretty high. So try and avoid the flowering types if you can. If you're going to have flowering types, maybe keep it to the smaller things, the bubiana and things like bubiala and things like that have got very small flowers that are very good for bees. So you're providing a food source for bees, but you're not necessarily exposing birds to traffic, which is one of the big concerns. We're going to have one more shot. Let's see how we go, Karen. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
There you are, and I think we can see you. Is everything all good now, guys? Yep. Okay, that's lovely to see you, Karen. How's the weather in South Australia?
Yeah, perfect. We've got perfect days. My heart goes out to all of my friends and family back in the Hawkesbury and in Penrith near the Nepean River. So
Yeah.
I'm sending you guys lots of love. But we've been quite blessed over here. In fact, we're actually still really dry. I've got cracks forming on my property. I'm on tank water, and it's actually still really dry. We're still well below rainfall here, but we've got beautiful sunny days. It's gorgeous gardening weather, beautiful autumn weather, and looks like we've got nice weather coming in South Australia over Easter as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. You always have very wonderful creative ideas, and the one that you're talking about today is a huge trend that came out of Japan. Well, it's been there for probably about 300 years that I'm aware of in history, but this is a very interesting concept, isn't it? Tell us about Kokedama.
Yeah, exactly. So this is an ancient form, and it came out of bonsai, in a form of bonsai in Japan. And the word Kokedama is actually Japanese for moss ball. So this was basically using some soil to plant in, and then putting green moss around the outside, and then stringing it up with like a twine or a very natural product. So this is my Aussie version of the Kokedama Ball, because obviously we don't have green moss en masse over here in Australia. So this is my version, and I use some hessian or some hemp cloth as well. And the great part about this is that the hemp cords, the jute strings that you use, everything at the end of its useful life, because like everything, we repot these a year or so, 2 years later, we can repot them, and then this will break down, but we can pop it in the compost bin, or throw it in the garden as well.
And Karen, it's a wonderful base actually for moss to actually grow on. And when the very first time I ever saw Kokedama, I was in Kyoto about probably 10 years ago. And I didn't realize how sophisticated it is. And they actually had something like, I think it was 15 or 16 different types of moss you could use. It was incredible.
It is amazing. Obviously, we can't travel to Japan at the moment, but we can bring a little bit of a Japanese art form into the home. And I'm actually very excited. In May, I'm catching up with family, and I'm actually heading to the Japanese gardens in Cowra in New South Wales. So
Beautiful.
I'm really looking forward to getting there. Hopefully in May, which will be lovely. I've been there many times, but I'm really looking forward to going back.
Now, Karen, I'm going to ask you: would you be able to duck around that table and bring your your Kokedama ball up closer to the camera, because I think
Sure.
it'll give people a really good idea as to just, there we go, look at that. It's quite amazing. Now, what is the plant you've got there? Can't quite pick it
So this
out.
is a Persian shield.
Oh, there we go.
The
Yeah.
good part about Kokedama is you can plant anything in there. I've even seen people put full-grown olive trees in massive, big meter wide Kokedama. It's quite amazing. But because I've got a real passion for indoor plants at the moment, these are fantastic to hang inside. I've also done, and this is an aloe, designer aloe. So you can do your succulents as well. And this one
Beautiful.
I've used a different coloured hessian, so you
Hmm.
can match your decor, and actually kept a little frill around the top. Normally I would trim that back, but you can actually keep some there. It just protects the plant, gives it a little collar, and it's quite colourful, and actually makes a really lovely gift for somebody as well.
Okay. Now, tell me, how do you pull them all together? How do you do it?
Okay, so my version is quite simple.
Yeah.
And I thought I would use this ficus. This is the ice caps ficus. So I thought we would plant that up today. So
Okay.
I've got about a roughly 30 centimetre square piece of jute hessian,
Yep.
quite a wide weave. And then I just pick up some little plastic picnic bowls from the op shop. They're reusable. Pop that down, works as a nice base. So we just pop your hessian in there, and then I start with the sphagnum moss. Now you know that I like to pre-soak my sphagnum moss, so I have actually pre-soaked it in the Osmocote pour and feed for indoor plants. For this one, I pre-soaked with the cacti and succulent. So again, really easy to use. Just pop that in there with some water. I have put some water in there as well. And like I said, I've pre-soaked that. So I always find the sphagnum moss much easier to use when it's already wet. So
Yep.
squeeze out the excess, put a layer down, and then we'll grab a handful of, for this one I'm using Osmocote indoor potting mix because it is an indoor plant. For the aloe and for my succulents, I use the Osmocote cacti and succulent mix. It's got extra aggregate in there, extra sand, so you get much better drainage.
Yep.
Now, I have already popped this out, and I have already shaken off the excess potting mix that was on those roots. Pop that in, and then I'm just going to add a little bit more sphagnum moss around the top. And the bowl just helps form that shape. So we've got that nice rounded shape happening, and we're just squeezing that into a lovely ball shape. Then we just pull up the four corners, and we will tie the neck of the plant, being very careful. And you can see if I lift that out, we've already got that rounded shape forming. Yep. And it's just like wrapping up a Christmas pudding for those that have done Christmas puddings. We'll tie that off. Mould it into shape. The sphagnum moss is really easy to mould. And then we'll trim the excess. Like I said, this is my Aussie version.
Yeah.
And
we need to adapt because our climate's a lot drier, isn't it? So we do have to sort of do things just a little bit different.
That's right. Just be careful, obviously, not to cut your plant.
Karen, I reckon you should be doing a whole bunch of these, then giving them to David Van Berkel, and he can supply them to people all over Australia. This is a perfect way to do it. They're fantastic.
Absolutely. And then we just grab another piece of twine. I've got
Yep.
about a 3-metre piece that I've pre-cut, and we just pop that on and we just wind it around. Mold that into shape and just wrap that around however you want to.
Now, the whole idea of this is once you've actually got them all tied off is to string them, actually hang them in the air, isn't it?
That's exactly right.
So you've got a sky dart.
Exactly. They look beautiful. There we go. Tie that off. And then to maintain your Kokedama ball, you just once a week or so fill up the sink or a bucket,
Yep.
and then you just dunk the ball in some water. And every fortnight, I also use a little bit of boost and feed as well, just to keep it nice and healthy.
So would you pop the boost and feed into the water and then dunk them in there and let them soak it up?
You can do.
Yeah.
Also, the boost and feed is already already mixed with water, so you don't need to do that. You can also just tip a little bit on as well,
over the
and
top,
then just mix it off with some water. So
now that's going to be the single biggest challenge for these plants is they've got a very limited root ball, haven't they? So you do need to keep the moisture and the nutrient up to them. Those are the two big challenges if you want them to be really lush and healthy, right?
Exactly, yes. And that will depend obviously on your climate, where you're hanging them, different seasons as well. I find in summer they need a lot more water and than they do in winter. But there you go.
Karen, that looks amazing.
Yeah, it's really, really cute.
And if you had sort of 5 or 10 of those all hanging around, let's say outside a door or inside a shade house or in an atrium or maybe under the pergola outside, they'd look amazing.
Yeah, they do. They do look amazing. And they're just, as you can see, really simple to make. We've actually put the instructions on our Love the Garden website. So Love the Garden and just Karen's Kokedama balls. And a great activity to do coming up with school holidays as well. Easy with the kids, safe and easy to do. Again, you don't need too many supplies, but you'll get many Kokedama balls out of your supplies.
Great. Well, we're going to get the Love the Garden website up so that we can make sure that people can get your guide on how to create their own Kokedama at home. Karen, you are so clever.
Oh, thank you.
What do you do in your spare time?
Sleep.
You'd be thinking all the time, even when you're asleep, I reckon, these creative little lovely ideas and ways to do things.
Absolutely.
I'm hoping you'll come back and join us again in a week's time maybe and do something again that's inspiring like you've done today.
That would be lovely. Thank you for the opportunity and great to be back.
Great to see you. Okay, well, look, take care of yourself and thanks so much for that contribution. Fantastic. Love the garden. Karen just always inspires. She's such an inspirational lady. I need to get her on the Garden Gurus TV show. That's what I reckon I need to do. Tell us what you think. Is that a good idea? See you, Karen. Okay. Let's get moving. I'm going to answer some of your questions. We've got quite a few before we move on to catching up with my mate, David Van Berkel. Cynthia, you didn't tell us where you're from, but you've asked a question. Is zeolite good for sandy soils? It's a good question. I'm not sure whether zeolite really, I'm not sure whether it is or whether it isn't, to be quite honest. As a general comment, zeolite is a highly porous, fossilized mineral. Well, not a fossilized, sorry, volcanic mineral. And it's highly absorbent. So if you put it into a soil, particularly a rich organic soil, it's going to improve aeration in that soil. My suggestion would be that you would look at this Mineral Magic as an alternative rock mineral. So they're both rock minerals. Mineral Magic is what they call a biogenic amorphic silica. So it's a fossilized plankton, about 130 million years old. What's interesting about it is it's negatively charged. So it sucks water up and it sucks nutrient up and holds it in the soil. So that might be the one you want to look for. It is, at the moment, it's rare as hen's teeth. It is starting to flow through Australia at the moment, which is great news. In fact, most garden centres, I think, in Western Australia, South Australia, and probably Victoria. I think Garden World in Victoria will all have stock by the end of this week, and we're hoping that we'll have it into New South Wales and Queensland as well a bit later on. It's been remarkable, the demand, and I'll talk about it a bit further on. In fact, next week I'll get one of our consulting scientists to come and talk about what it does. It's a pretty incredible plant, a pretty incredible rock mineral, and the benefits it brings are remarkable. Jackie is in Brisbane. Hello, Jackie. What are the best bulbs to plant and leave in the garden? So in Brisbane, you're a little bit on the warmer side. So there's a whole bunch of different types of these warmer climate bulbs. And most of these bulbs actually have origins either in South Africa or in Southern Africa. But there are some of them that come from South America too, so Nerines and things like that. And the best place to go and see them and find out more about them is at the Garden Express website. That's gardenexpress.com.au, because they're the biggest supplier of bulbs in Australia. They've got an amazing range, and of course they deliver them direct to your doorstep. So that's my suggestion to you. Brad's in Cloncurry in Queensland. Hello, Brad. Some of your bougainvilleas have had lots of water shoots, and some are nice and bushy with lots of bracts. Do I keep cutting the water shoots off, or is there a reason they grow? Look, there is a bit of a natural tendency, but the more you cut those water shoots off at the same height as the rest of the plant, so you just stop all the energy going in and force it to bush out and produce more flowers, the more you'll end up with that sort of permanent habit in its growth. So it's all about shaping for a period of time. Some bougainvilleas are definitely far more likely to send up big, long shoots, and there's not a lot you can do about that. Some of the varieties are just like that. But as a general comment, if you keep pruning, you'll end up getting it into a certain compact habit, and it'll maintain that shape and then just produce lots and lots of bracts and little flowers inside those bracts afterwards. Okay, I promised you, David Van Berkel, on the weekend, we did something that we did a year before with you guys, David, and it's caused a storm. And you've got to stop doing this. Everybody's going crazy. They can't get enough fuchsias. Tell us about the fuchsia deal and how it went.
Well, the fuchsia deal went a bit crazy, Trevor, and we've listed a few more collections on the website to cater for that demand. I don't think all of the collections are up for the episode, but there's a few more being added as well.
That's great news, because I know I saw so many posts saying couldn't get them, tried to get my hands on it, couldn't get them. The fuchsias, this is the time of the year to be getting your hands on those smaller plants. So I am sure that even though that you will probably be sold out by the time you and I have finished talking in about 7 minutes or something, that there'll be none left of the current stock. But I know that you're constantly, you've got stock coming through all the time and new collections coming through. So people can keep their eye out on your website for the next lot as they roll through too, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely, Trevor. Some good friends of mine in Adelaide, in the Adelaide Hills, actually grow these for us for the flower show and of course now Flower Fest. So being such a popular thing at Nifkus, and then of course with the Flower Fest now, we've put a heap more in stock over the coming weeks to cater for that. There's just so beautiful and so many colours, doubles. You name it, Trevor.
David, normally you and I not about this time, but about this time of the year, we'd be sharing a red wine somewhere in and around the centre of Melbourne, celebrating another successful Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show. We don't have that this year, but we do have Flower Fest, which, if there's a spin-off from COVID that's a positive, this has got to be it, right? Tell us about it.
Well, Flower Fest is exactly as you say. We're missing out on the wonderful flower show, presenting all of our products last year, of course. We took it online, and it made it a little bit more national, Trevor, so we could reach a lot more of our customers with the great range of special deals that we organised for the flower show, from your sloggers boots to your Felco tools, all of our wonderful flowering bulbs, and so much more. The fuchsias, aloes from a good friend of mine up in Queensland. just some beautiful, beautiful plants and so many more things as well.
Yeah, look, the thing with Flowerfest is that it's one of those great opportunities for everybody in Australia to participate, and that's the bit that I do love about it, is that people can go online now, start to check out these collections that you've got as part of Flowerfest that would have been at Melbourne at MIFGS, but now everybody can get their hands on them, and you'll be shipping them all over the country, right?
Absolutely, it's going to be a really busy time for us again, Trevor. It's COVID's just been wonderful for the garden industry. We've all lamented that. But there's a lot of work that goes into presenting all of these great offers, and we really look forward to presenting them over the next couple of weeks. Flowerfest is getting bigger and better, and some great deals, and we've got more people wanting to come on board with some special offers. So it's a really exciting time to give gardeners a little bit extra to be planting around Easter time and playing in their garden a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Now, listen, just back to those fuchsias. Can you just run me through what the deal was with the collections? Because I'm pretty sure there were 6 collections originally. I think there's only maybe a couple left, but it was an amazing deal, wasn't it? They're $48 normally.
It's normally $48, and we're doing them for 25% off, Trev. $36 for 4 plants, and we give you a mixture of colours. So we've got, I think, 2 or 3 double collections, a couple of single upright collections, and then also some hanging basket collections. So, beautiful varieties that you've got there of fuchsias, purples, blues.
We're playing
with the
some
white
footage at the moment. This is just one single plant in my garden. It's now about 1.5 meters tall by 2 meters wide, and it all year round is just smothered in flowers. Now, remember, this is Perth. We're not talking Melbourne or Tassie or in a cooler climate. And it just is spectacular. So you're going to have 4 of these. That can make a huge, beautiful hedge, right?
Exactly. You can do some amazing things with them, and there can be a compact plant. You can let them get away a little bit. And I don't know if you remember, Trev, but as a kid, popping the little bells on them, forcing them open a little bit early. The size of some of the buds on these new varieties are incredible. They're a wonderful, diverse plant, and as you say, can handle some really decent temperatures. Like to have a little bit of that afternoon shade, but just masses of flower colour.
Obviously, we were talking to Karen Goldie earlier on. It's been actually quite a long, hot, dry summer in Adelaide, and that's where these have been grown in the Adelaide Hills. Pretty dry climate there. These particular varieties are going to be very tough. It doesn't matter where you are in Australia; they're going to perform, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful plants. Grown by some real experts who've dedicated their life to breeding and bringing new varieties of fuchsias. And such an old world plant that I felt was nearly lost. And I can't believe how popular they have become again over the last sort of decade.
Well, look at the sales. Last year, I couldn't believe they sold out. Remember last year, we were getting people who were writing into us live as the program was going to air saying, I've just gone online, they're already sold out, and it's hundreds of plants just suddenly gone. They're out, they're being delivered, to gardens all over Australia. I know you increased it this year to be able to have some more, to be able to keep the supply up, but this is a great sign that colour is back, and this is the time to be getting these plants into the garden.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wonderful to be able to present this offer to the viewers again, and as I said, look out for more of these products through Flowerfest as we bring you something new every couple of days, even over the next few weeks.
Fantastic. I know Rowan and all the team there. I know you're one big family at Garden Express. They're all out there madly working, pulling this all together. David, thanks so much for joining us, mate. I'm looking forward to, I'll be following you online and ordering progressively as we go too. So look forward to seeing you next week, hopefully next Monday.
Excellent, Trevor, and look forward to seeing you again as well. Keep up the good work.
Buddy. Thanks, mate. Take care. Right. Well, look, I'm pretty excited because we've got a couple of segments coming up that I love sharing with you. One is my plant of the week, which is something that's a bit different, and we did post earlier on a picture of this, and I'll show you in a second. And I asked if you could tell us what they are. Asked the guys internally in here. No idea. So we'll test that in a second. And then we've got my mate Nigel Ruck joining us. Nigel's, I know he's standing by, and he's in a very special part of the world, so I look forward to chatting to him. But first up, let's have a look at this plant of the week. Do you know what these are. I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip. It is a shrub, and it gets to about 2.5 meters or so in height, with a spread of around about 2 meters. You can see the fruit there. Can you guess? Has anybody guessed? Do we know? We don't have any. No, we've had gooseberries, we've had miniature pomegranates, we've had all sorts of questions. This is the strawberry guava. This is the time of the year that I love the most in the garden, because I've got all my fruit coming through. And you can see this is a plant that you'll find in garden centres. It's a really hardy shrub. You can use it for hedging. You can do all sorts of things with it. But now is the time to pick the fruit. And the fruit is delicious. It is absolutely scrumptious. And I'm going to share it around the guys. So we've got Steve and Jimmy and Lachlan in, and I'm going to get them to try it. Now, guavas, if you love guavas, and I love guavas, this one's got more of a strawberry flavour. When you pick them nice and ripe, they're very sweet. And you can eat the seeds, you can eat the skin, the whole lot. So the guys are munching away. I wish I could turn this camera around so you could see. But yeah, it's a really interesting little fruit, and quite delicious. Most importantly, it's probably from one of the hardiest shrubs you'll ever grow. They really are tough. And when you collect them, they make the most amazing jams. They're great eaten fresh. Really, really good. So yeah, I've got nods. They've all eaten them, which is good. And there's no screwed up faces, which is a good sign. So my plant of the week, strawberry guava. Absolutely brilliant plant, and one that you should be planting into your garden now and harvesting if you've got them in your garden as well. Some people actually have them and don't realise what they are. So thought I'd show that to you. Okay, so let's continue on, and I'll give you a promo of what's coming up on the weekend. We all know Nige loves his lawn.
Autumn is the best time to improve your lawn naturally, to help it recover from the stresses of summer and prepare it for winter. Now I'll show you how to do this easily, as well as improve your lawn's soil and increase worm activity. You gotta love those worms, and they'll love you right back. For more great gardening advice, join us this Saturday on the Garden Gurus. Autumn is the...
Well, there we go. And there you have it. Nigel Ruck, nice to see you, my friend. I tell you what, you just get better with age, don't you? You do.
I don't know about that. It's the new Mac I'm using. It's got the special filter built into the camera.
It's worth the investment, Nigel.
That doesn't let you age.
Yeah, I'm trying to buy more cameras for us that keep you and I looking young and hunky. I haven't found one yet, but if I find one, we're going to be doing well.
You could probably do with something similar over at your end.
Absolutely. Probably two, thanks. How are you going, Nige? Good to see you.
I'm very well, yeah. I'm just down in Gerringong, which is about 2.5 hours south of Sydney. You can see a bit of it over my shoulder there.
Beautiful.
It's such a beautiful part of the south coast. I'm down here for the week doing some work.
Okay.
So it's exciting, and I'll probably find time to just take in some of the sights, And
very good.
Of course, Easter's, be here in the blink of an eye.
Nige, I've been following you on Instagram for a long period of time, and every once in a while you'll post a series of photos on some of these projects that you undertake with your landscape business. And I think it's something, we see you on TV and you spend so much time in the typical backyard, but very few people understand the magnitude of the types of projects that you work on. You're doing some spectacular gardens.
Yeah, we've done a few really big ones over the last few years. We've started one in Avalon, Northern Beaches, a spectacular property that's a waterfront. So we've done some work there. We craned in. They had a crane on site, so they've been doing renovations. So we had a permanent crane on site, big tower crane, one of those remote control things. So we took advantage of that. and we craned in 15 really big blue grass trees about 3 or 4 weeks ago. The Xanthoria glauca, fabulous looking. They're my favourite grass tree, I think. You know, they're just so big and chunky, and they have that really glaucous foliage. So that's been a lot of fun, and that one we'll be getting back in there, I suspect, about May to do a lot of underplanting. So that's been a good one. And then the other big one we did was the one at Bayview last year, which is now we're there every 2 weeks doing maintenance. So just a bit lucky, really. I mean, we do small jobs too, but I have done some biggies with the crane, and you know, it's just nice to have clients, you know, who have got that budget. You know, we're lucky really to be able to work with a big budget like that from time to time, where they can, you know, throw a bit of money around at super advanced plants, and you know that we crane in. So
these are instant gardens you're creating, though, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they're instant. I mean, you know, it's like with plants, it's time versus money. You know, if you've got the means, you want to put something big in straight away, it just changes everything. So, yeah, there've been some biggies.
Yeah, look, it's really impressive. If people get a chance, they should try and pull you up on Instagram and have a look at some of those photos. I just look at it and just go, wow, the logistics of just pulling that together and the end effect of some of those gardens, the look is just amazing, Nige. It's must be very rewarding personally when you get to the end of a project like that and see it all, you know, come together.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what's so great about landscaping is the job satisfaction. You know, you're creating, you know, there's a journey, but really you get amazing job satisfaction. And of course, this year, you know, on the East Coast, there's been an amazing growing season. We had a lot of rain, obviously, with La Nina, the weather pattern, combined with the heat, combined with, you know, nice, good soil and the right sort of nutrients. And it's been explosive growth. Incredible.
Wow!
So that's been wonderful to see, and then you know the big part of it for me too, with a lot of our jobs, is to then we just naturally flow into a maintenance program with the client, and you know that's just as rewarding too, seeing it grow, maintaining the relationship, you know, and just looking after the garden, because obviously it just gets better and better.
Yes,
that's
I think
the idea anyway. You know,
that's the perfect scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's great. So, you know, it's good to get into these, you know, the big jobs, but then also maintain them is you know, it's sort of like two businesses, you know, the initial install and then the maintenance side of it too.
Yeah. And now, Nigel, look, obviously the big news for the last couple of weeks has been the significant amount of rain that's fallen in sort of southern Queensland, particularly northern and central New South Wales, and obviously just out of Sydney, really, on the Hawkesbury. There's obviously been a lot of damage done. There's a lot of damage done to gardens, and there's a lot of people writing in asking questions, looking for advice. What do they do? Should they be feeding their gardens now? Should they be backing off and letting them settle down? What's the recommendations?
Well, we're sort of certainly with lawns, now is a very important time. I mean, if you've got some moisture issues, I suppose aerating is a really good thing to do. You know, a lot of at this time of year, you get a lot of compaction, which adds to the whole water runoff, not lack of drainage issue. So you get heavy rain on a compacted lawn, it just sits there or runs off. So aerating your lawn and feeding the lawn now is a very important time. And then we're sort of, you know, there's certainly pruning, a lot of pruning going on still. We're still getting really good growth. I'm tending to feel now that we've applied all of our sort of organic and controlled release type fertilizers earlier in the year. Now we're sort of still pushing with liquids. So sea salt, power feed, but we'll back off the power feed soon and just really stay with the seaweed, and wait until sort of late winter, early spring before we start, you know, trying to support the growth. By all means, you know, but that's if you hadn't fed at all and things are looking a little say lackluster or not quite as good as they should, then I think a good liquid feed and even an organic feed now is a good idea.
Yeah.
All through, but
Yep.
but certainly, I mean, we're still getting some good growth here now.
Great.
And
we'll do for what have you got another 2 months of growing season ahead at least, haven't you?
Probably. I mean, it's hard to see. Today is such a beautiful, warm day, but you can see some of the trees, deciduous trees, are colouring, just responding to the less light.
Yes.
It's the shorter days, and you start to see some liquid ambers starting to turn, already, and you sort of think, well, it's still pretty warm, but it's just the shorter daylight hours.
Interesting. Now, tell me, Nige, on the weekend, we had a bit of a chat Saturday afternoon. I know you just got home from a big day with a film crew. What did you film? You did 3 stories on Saturday, didn't you?
3 stories. We did a nice one for Mother's Day gifts, which was some really cool tools through Garden Express from Van Berkel. They've got a really cool small hand tool set, really stylish, nice stuff. Good quality stainless steel with these lovely timber handles. Nice. So we did a story on that, and then also another set that they will be coming up is the garden spade and the fork. So that was a nice story. Good gift ideas. Obviously, this type of stuff makes excellent gifts for Mother's Day.
Yep.
We did an autumn lawn feeding story as well.
Yep.
Which was, just what we've been talking about. Again, there's still time. Generally, I think they say Easter is sort of when you really want to try to feed your lawn by Easter, unless Easter comes early. But I'd say certainly by early April, early mid-April, you'd want to have your lawn feeding done. And then we had one on a lovely plant, the hellebores, Helleborus?
Yeah.
Through Garden Express. And
so these will be things that people will be able to. These will be offers in the future that people will be able to pick up, because I've got some gorgeous hellebores in my garden, growing under the shady spots where nothing else will grow. They do exceptionally well.
Yeah. And I must admit, they're a plant I haven't been using as much of lately, but certainly it certainly made me think, maybe I need to start using these more, because they're such a cool plant. They've got a really nice, classy, dark green, leathery leaf, which shows a bit of toughness once they're established. They can be quite drought tolerant.
Yep.
Really good in light shaded areas, like you say, and of course, a beautiful range of winter flowers. So when a lot of other things aren't flowering, you get a lovely display, really nice, planted in drifts.
Now, Nigel, we've got so many questions coming through. I'm going to have to leave you pretty soon, but I've got one that's come through. It's from Abdul in Melbourne, and it's a turf one. So I thought I might just share it with you. Maybe you can help, because this is a difficult one. I've not heard of this before. You might have heard of it. Abdul said he takes great pride in his Kikuyu lawn, but he's sure that rats are absolutely destroying it. After poisoning them, they stop for a while, and then another batch comes along and the lawn seems to be all destroyed in the morning. Is this unusual? Have you ever heard of that before, rats and lawns?
No. I mean, rats, that's strange. I mean, rats, as far as I know, I'm no expert on rats, but, they're just opportunists looking for food. I can't see what they'd be getting out of eating a lawn.
No, so I would get, in my lawn, I get a bit of sort of dug up patches caused by bandicoots, which they're obviously a native marsupial. I wouldn't want to kill them. I love them being around the garden, but I've never heard of rats going for lawns, and it would suggest that there's no other food around if they're going for the grass, wouldn't it?
Well, you'd think so, but certainly bandicoots. Bandicoots, the other one that you often see on the lawns are the mole crickets. Mole crickets burrowing in, and it looks like lots of worm castings. You've got these piles of soil, excavated soil. But rats, I don't know whether there's a humane way of dealing with them.
No. The best thing I would suggest to test it.
It's a tricky one, Abdul. I'm sorry I haven't got a better answer for you. I mean, I'm assuming you keep the place nice and clean, and strange that they're going for the grass, but maybe
For the grass.
maybe they're onto something, with the
Yeah.
kaiku.
Well, the thing is, Nige, maybe if he sets up a couple of those self-contained rat traps that the rats can come in and they're caught inside, at least then you'll be able to see if it's rats straight away. But certainly I wouldn't be throwing poison around randomly because it's not a good thing to be doing at all, regardless, is it?
Not at all. I try to avoid. You try and avoid poisons, full stop. It's just a good practice to try and stay away from it. But I guess sometimes it's got its place. But the trapping, I think, is a good idea. You get those traps. I think you can get them at a lot of nurseries and hardware stores, and then, like you say, then you'll definitely know what you've got.
Yeah,
What you caught. Because they'll, and then you can get closer, I guess, to dealing with the problem.
Well, Nigel, I'm going to have to leave you because the guys are looking at me saying this is the wrap-up speed round. This is when I go and answer as many questions as I can in a very short period of time. Okay. Buddy, it's been great catching up with you today, mate. You're looking fantastic, and I hope you enjoy yourself down there. What's the town again?
Gerringong. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, well, I'll have to do a bit of research on it. Sounds great.
It's beautiful.
See you, my friend.
See you, mate. Bye.
That's Nigel Ruck. What a legend he is. And some pretty amazing projects. It was a good chat. Now, let's get into your questions because we do have a lot and I want to get through as many as I can for you. Leanne is in Melbourne. How long will your beans keep growing, Leanne? Beans will grow basically, and then they'll once they've finished a big flush of, once you've harvested, and you've taken your crop, generally they start to go off. They only have so much energy in them. So, depends on where you are, depends on how old the plants are. I tend to grow 2 or 3 crops during the summer months, knowing that I'm going to have 3 to 4 months of productivity and then change them over. Valerie is in Lake Cathy in New South Wales. Hi, Valerie. Welcome back. I'm interested in advice on what to do after the massive amount of rain recently. Do we hold off fertiliser for a while or do we try and replace what has washed away? You've probably got it washed away and you've probably got it washed in as well. So the important thing probably at the moment, Valerie, is to let the ground dry out a little bit and hopefully you don't have any more rain, any more saturation, because that's going to be quite problematic, I would think, at the moment. What I would suggest you do is leave it for a month or so and then maybe mid to late April, look at one more feed. And I think Nigel mentioned before, he's moving to liquid fertilizers now because we've got a very short growing season left for a lot of plants. So that might be the recommendation, is to go to something like a, if they're outdoor plants, go to something like a power feed. But yeah, I wouldn't go putting any fertilizer on. Jane's in Perth and she's coming to us through the YouTube channel. Can I move and establish Hardenbergia plant? Now, look, Hardenbergia is a native wisteria. It is a native. You could cut it back hard and you could try and move it, but it's highly unlikely it'll survive. They do not handle transplant at all well. If you were going to give it a go, I would wait until winter, until at least June, and we've had some good rain, the ground is saturated, and good luck, because I'm not very confident for you, Jane. You're probably best just to start with a brand new plant. Scott is in Ipswich in Queensland. I've got black mold on one of my bottle brushes. What's the best treatment? As I keep pruning it and the problem keeps coming back. Well, black mold generally occurs because of scale. So if you've got scale on the plant, ants will come through and they literally eat this sucrosy substance called honeydew off the back of the scale, and it's all over their body, and as they move around, they spread it. And the black mold is actually eating the sugars of the honeydew, and it creates a big black layer across the stems. Now, when it's really bad, it can cause all sorts of issues with the plant because they can start to literally get smothered. The easiest way to clean it off is to go through and give it a bit of a spray of copper oxychloride, or Coside. So I think Coside is either sold as Coside or as copper spray for fruit trees. If you spray that over the outside of the plant, that will clear off a fair bit of the black mold. But the fundamental problem is probably the scale and the ants. So you do need to look at, after spraying for black mold, is to probably give the plant a good spray with something that's going to control scale, and it's more than likely going to be one of those eco oils or one of those horticultural oils. Jody is in Manila in New South Wales. Hello, Jody. When should I repot my water lilies? Should I fertilise them? Some are still flowering. You should be feeding them now. Keep pushing their growth. And you know those Trophorte tree planting tablets, they're perfect. Push them in. Keep the feed up to them. Try and get them right up until the weather turns cold and they start to go dormant, and don't repot them until sort of October, probably September, October. You're in the spring, you've got warmer weather, warmer water, and then they'll transplant pretty well. You can break them up and put them into new pots. Nicola is in Melbourne. I'm looking for some other ideas on removing scale from my orange tree. Tried a number of sprays of limited success. It's too big a tree to manually scrape them off. Now, there are some predatory wasps that do take care of scales. There are some sprays, and it sounds like the sprays are not working. So maybe you want to check out Biological Services. This is a company. We'll put some information up on our Facebook page, and check it out because that'll really help. Mary we're not sure where you're from, Mary, but I suspect you're probably from Perth. You've got something you think is called chili thrip on your roses. It's never happened before. Why now? It is a massive problem in WA. Now, it's not called chili thrip, it's called Western flower thrip, and it is a real disaster. And this is another one where you can spray. The short-term spray is to use a wettable sulfur spray, so that's pretty light as far as its toxicity. It'll take a lot of them out, but it won't take them all out. What you really need to do is to get your hands on some of these predatory mites that take them out. Bacillus, I think, is the one that does the job. And again, Biological Services. We will put this up on our Facebook page, and we'll make sure that you've got the connection to find out some more about this company, where you can get these mites from, and how to actually apply them to your garden. Aaron's in Perth for carnivorous plants. Is scheme water safe? Now, I've been using distilled water for my plants. I read this was the best option. However, this is getting expensive as your collection grows. Your collection is probably growing because you are using distilled water, unfortunately, Aaron. One of the things that you do need to keep in mind is that water quality varies from state to state. So to give you general advice, in WA, or certainly in the Perth metro area, the water tends to be fairly good quality because it's been actually gone through a distillation process. It's been through a decel plant, and then they literally add some minerals back into it. My suggestion would be that I would stick to the distilled water. Maybe test a couple of plants with the scheme water and see how you go. But yeah, potentially you can cause all sorts of problems. Now, Debbie's in Perth, and she's having a lot of problems with European wasps making galls in your citrus. Now, they're not European wasps. That is citrus gall wasps. So it's a unique wasp that literally drills a little hole in developing branches, lays its eggs in there, and it causes this galling effect, and eventually it can really cause some problems. The only way to really control this is there is a spray or there is a trap, and what you have to do is cut all the galls away and then have these yellow traps in your tree, and you'll be amazed if the populations are big near you, you'll be amazed how many you'll get caught on that trap before they'll do any damage on the tree. Trimming the tree does help, but the solution is to trap them and keep control. I hope that helps. Now, look, we've had a big number of you joining us throughout this broadcast, and the whole idea of doing it each Monday morning is to help you with your gardening problems and to give you some insights to things that are going on, maybe some special guests that you've never met before, or get some inspirational ideas like we had today from Karen. So we're back next Monday doing it all over again. We'd love you to join us then. So that's at 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. It's 9 a.m. Western Standard Time. Lachlan's going to reach out to this week's winners with regards to the prizes, the packets of seeds and the copy of 2 Dogs and a Garden. Remember, the Garden Gurus Autumn Series is playing on Channel 9 right now at 4:30 p.m. Saturdays. We're right in the midst of the autumn season. There's some really inspirational stories, as Nige gave away today. There's some super special offers coming up also from our friends at Garden Express. And remember, you can always catch up with previous stories on thegardengurus.tv or check out our YouTube channel, thegardengurus.tv. You can listen back to today's live stream and catch up on previous episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Audible. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you again next Monday. I'm Trevor Cochrane. See you then. Have a great week.
Visit the Garden Guru's online store and browse through a collection of high-quality, German-made Wolfgarten tools. You'll also find a range of books with information to help create and maintain a beautiful garden. You can also access the online store on the Garden Guru's Facebook page